Winter frost will not kill them, you can safely plant them out on your balcony. The plant won't be able to regenerate. If you ever see these little creatures in your containers, so many earthworms in just one small pot. Hi guys, so welcome back to the channel. Today I want to invite you to join me for a balcony garden maintenance day. I want to say goodbye to summer once and for all and welcome this new fall season. So I will be cleaning up my summer containers. I have some biennial plants that I grew from seeds that need to be transplanted. I have some containers that need to be mulched, and I'll probably find some other things along the way as well. So as per usual, I will stop, explain what I'm doing and share some tips if there are any. And yeah, hopefully you will enjoy following along today. So let's go. Okay, so let's start with the summer planters. They really need to be cleaned up. They look miserable. I mean, this one still looks fairly decent, but the rest of them looks really bad. I will show you a picture of how they looked when they were at their prime, because you couldn't tell just looking at them now, especially that I didn't water them for over a week. So they look exceptionally bad. But it was such a lovely mix of plants. We had Begonia semperflorens, San Vitalia procumbens, Lobelia erinus, Calibrachoa, and Euphorbia diamond frost. So all of these plants were perfectly suitable for partial shade, and they looked really good until a point where it started to be really hot. We had an extremely hot summer with temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius for really long periods of time. And unfortunately, these a little bit more fragile plants like San Vitalia and Lobelia, they just didn't make it. So next year I think I'm gonna go with something really simple. I already mentioned that I want to plant plants that I know for sure they are gonna make it, that they will bloom all summer long no matter what. So I think my choice for next summer, I mean obviously this may change, but for as of right now I think I'm gonna be planting either trailing geraniums or Begonia semperflorens, the wax begonia, because these bloom no matter what, no matter the weather conditions. They are happy to bloom all summer long and they're very reliable. So they need to be cleaned up because in all cases, as I said, they look bad. They are seasonal plants, so they don't withstand frost. I planted them in April, so now it's October, it's been 6 months. And it's time to switch to something more autumnal. When the soil is dry, it's easier to pull them from the containers because they come out in one large chunk of soil, and when the soil is wet you can't do it, the soil just crumbles. So it makes the job faster and cleaner. So if you ever see these little creatures in your containers, don't be alarmed, they are actually very beneficial. They are called wood lice and they are decomposers, so they are very important in ecosystem because they decompose decaying or dead plant material. They don't harm plants, you will see them around plants, but they don't eat the plants, they are just eating the dead plant material all around the plant. So okay, so now that the containers are emptied and clean, I'm gonna fill them with fresh soil. I usually don't plant any fall compositions in these railing pots on my balcony, just because I have 9 pots and they are pretty large. So if I wanted to make a really cute, fancy fall composition with perennial plants, and then I would have to repeat it 9 times, that would be a bit of an expensive project and I don't want to spend that amount of money on fall planters. So I usually keep it really simple. I usually plant spring bulbs at the bottom and then pansies on top. which looks really cute in the spring. But this year I want to try something different again, to not repeat every single year the same composition. I have a mix of biennial plants that I grew from seeds. I will be planting some pansies. I have two different types of pansies. I have giant Swiss, which is a large blue pansy, and then I have a rococo mix, which is one of my favorites. They have ruffled petals and it's a really colorful mix. And then I have forget-me-nots. I have pink and blue forget-me-nots. So obviously they are not in bloom yet. So obviously it will not look amazing right now, but that's okay. I'm willing to wait because I know that it's going to be colorful in the spring, and during this time, fall, winter, I have some other compositions and other plants that provide interest on the balcony floor. Okay, so here are all of my biennial plants. I grew them all from seeds. I seeded them, I think it was at the beginning of July. I have a video on how to sow biennial plants. They are biennial, meaning they produce foliage in the first year and then they bloom in the second year. This is why we have to sow them in summer, then transplant them to their final containers in the fall, and then they bloom the following spring. So as I mentioned already, I have two different types of myosotis. So forget-me-nots, I have pink and blue. Then I have two different types of pansies, and I have foxgloves, just a classic Digitalis purpurea, and they are all perfectly winter hardy, so the winter frost will not kill them. You can safely plant them out on your balcony. You don't have to protect them in any way. They are very hardy plants. Even if you have harsh frost and they look a little bit wilted, usually they bounce back once the temperatures warm up a bit. But you have to transplant them in the fall so that they have enough time to, to root into their new container, and they will bloom for you in the spring. So many earthworms in just one small pot, like 3 or 4 I counted. I add a lot of organic matter in my containers, and they just reproduce on the balcony. I find like very small ones under my containers all the time, so that's really awesome. Okay, so it's all planted, the floor is clean, so now I just have to water everything. It's really important to water your plants immediately after planting and to keep them well watered during first couple of weeks before they establish. I'm gonna be adding a few drops of power roots, mix it with water. Power roots is a potassium-based additive. It helps with the transplant shock. It helps your newly planted plants develop healthy root system. It makes your plants stronger, more resistant. So I absolutely love this product. I use it all the time. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so now I just really quickly have to mulch some of my containers. I have a whole video dedicated to mulch. What is mulch? What are some benefits of using mulch? Different types of mulch, how to do it the right way. But just as a quick recap, it's a really good idea to mulch your potted plants because mulch helps to suppress weeds, it helps to retain moisture in the soil, it keeps the plants cooler in summer and it keeps them warmer a bit in winter, protecting the roots from frost. There are many great benefits of using organic mulch. So the way I do it usually is I add a layer of organic matter, and on top of that I add something more decorative, for example bark, pine cones, pebbles, moss, whatever I have available at the moment. So I spent the past weekend in the mountains and I brought myself some lovely pine cones, different types of pine cones, so that's what I'm gonna use today. So usually in the spring I add organic matter and then I add, as I said, something more decorative, and in the fall I just check which containers need some refill of mulch, or eventually if I planted something new during that season, I mulch it in the fall. Actually, one last thing that I want to do is to trim these evergreens a bit, because as you can see, they grow in a very odd shape and it really bothers me. I usually trim them once a year, so just that they are nice and bushy. And I haven't done it yet this year, so now might be a good moment to do it. When pruning conifers, it's really important not to prune them too hard, because if you look in the center, you will notice that they are bald, especially you can see it very well on this tuya. It's pretty bald, the stems are pretty bald inside, so if you prune too hard, if you prune too deep into the plant won't be able to regenerate, it's not gonna just regrow, so you basically ruin your plant. So always stay within this circle of green foliage. The only conifer that is able to regenerate when pruned very hard is Taxus baccata, that I have just behind the camera. Let me show you. Taxus baccata, as I said, is the only conifer that, even when pruned very hard until almost the center of the plant, it can regenerate, it can regrow new, fresh, green needles. But any other conifer won't be able to do it, so do not prune conifers too hard. Just stay within the outer circle of green foliage. Also, if you notice that your conifer starts to be a bit brown in the fall, winter, that's nothing to worry about. That's normal. They get a little bit brownish during winter, but they usually bounce back and they usually come back to their beautiful green color in the spring. But one important thing is conifers are evergreen plants, so they keep their foliage year round, and therefore they also need a bit of water during winter. If you don't water your potted conifers during winter, there is a risk that they will die. So if you live in a very cold climate, give them a really good drink in the fall, and then when the temperatures warm up in the spring, water them again. If you have a fairly mild climate, for example, I garden in zone 8, the soil sometimes freezes in containers, depending on the temperature, obviously, but before we have a hard frost in the forecast, I water my conifers really well. Okay guys, this is gonna be it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed spending some time in the garden with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!